Yo, what's going on, everyone? It's your boy Ben and JB from JBM Sports Media coming at you guys with last things you guys should know before the big game. When you guys are seeing this, we are only hours away from Super Bowl 60, the New England Patriots matching up against the Seattle Seahawks at Levi Stadium. We're more than excited for this game. And right here in this video, we're going to give you guys some last things that you guys should know, some key details, some key stats about this Super Bowl matchup, which even though it's not getting a lot of hype around it, I feel like a lot of people have been, I call them casuals, have been hating on this Super Bowl matchup. Here at JBM, we actually really like it. I think to me, it's 50-50. I really do believe it's anybody's ball game. And we're going to get into some key stats right here, showing you guys how this could genuinely be a 50-50 game. JB, before we get into the stats, last thing, obviously this is going to be the last video they see before Super Bowl 60. You want to say about the game?
No, listen. I think it's going to be a great game. I really do. This is two really good teams. I think they both represent their conferences really well. Obviously, there's like you said, a lot of casuals hating on this game. I think it's ridiculous that there's people hating on this game. I think it's going to be a very good game. I think we have two very good quarterbacks in this game. We have two very good defenses as well. We have two run games that, when they're clicking, it's beautiful to see because it just opens up the passing game even better for both squads. I mean, both of these quarterbacks are really doing great things for their franchise, to be honest with you. Especially we've talked about Sam Darnold, and his early struggles to now, being literally 4 quarters away of being a champion, and Drake May literally in his second full season with the MVP stats that he's put up, and and literally getting his team to a Super Bowl. And people have hated on him and his schedule and the strength of schedule. And listen, I get it, but you have to play the team that's in front of you every week, and he doesn't create this. He doesn't create the schedule, so it's not on him. And he went out there and he executed, and he got his team to the Super Bowl. So I think that there's going to be a lot of people that actually say, "Wow, this was a great game," and it's going to turn some heads. So I think this is going to be a game for the ages. To be honest with you, I see it being definitely more exciting than boring.
Yeah, I especially agree with you on that, specifically because of the Super Bowl matchup we had last year with the Eagles and Chiefs. That game was practically over at halftime, if we're
Oh
being
yeah,
honest. So I think this game is probably going to be one of the best ones we're going to see in quite some time. And that's not me just hyping this game up as a true NFL fan, but just because I do believe with the circumstances of both these teams getting here, I mean, it's anybody's game. If whoever plays the best ball, obviously is going to win it. That's a casual statement right there, but it's true because mistakes are going to matter right here. We're going to get into the key stats right now, which you guys are, if you guys are even going to bet, which I say always bet responsibly, maybe take into these stats a little bit into consideration because obviously I think some of these will obviously be eye-catching. And we're going to start off with JV kicking it off with his first stat right here. Both teams in the Super Bowl, the Seahawks and the Patriots, are both top 4 in scoring defense and offense. JV, if you want to get a little bit into this.
yeah. So listen, this is going to be a game where I think that there's going to be a couple of plays where, if they're big plays, that team is going to win. If the Seahawks get a couple of big plays, they'll win, and the same for the Patriots. But the crazy part is that their defense has actually stopped those plays. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Seahawks dial up. I do think that they should be aggressive and try to get after it early. I think they should really open up their run game and then try to mix in that play action pass that they're so good at doing. And Drake May, obviously, if he could find Stephon Diggs for some big plays down the field, I think that's going to really help. They haven't had that in a long time. There's a couple of games where Diggs has been underwhelming. I think they really got to get him involved. And if their run game is going to really pick up the slack, I think that's only going to help Drake May obviously keep the nerves down as well. So I'd like to see what these two defenses are going to dial up. I actually think that Seattle is going to show a lot of zone in this game, and they're going to try to just put their pressure with their front four. And for the Patriots, I do see them playing a lot of man coverage in this and trying to stop the run, and really putting the pressure on Donald. So we'll see what happens in this game. And I do think that the first half, it's going to be a low scoring first half. So I think it's going to be very defensive minded in that regard. The first 30 minutes of the game.
Yeah, one thing that obviously you could talk about when it comes to this stat right here is that the Pats offense ranks top 4 in explosive plays and the Seahawks ranks top 8 in explosive plays. So they're right there. They're right there. It's a toss-up, really. 4 from 8. I do think that when you look at both defenses and offenses in this game, whoever makes a mistake, I do believe that's where it's going to go rogue for either team, whether that's Drake May fumbling the football, whether it's Sam Darnold, going rogue as well, seeing ghosts, whatever that may be. I think that's where the game's going to flip over. I think this is a great stat to bring up, especially because it just shows you how well balanced both these teams are. And looking at
Absolutely.
the Patriots and their defense as well, like I said, I gave them a lot of credit because I don't believe they have a lot of household names, but they're starting to make a name for themselves here in this run. Regardless of what you say about their strength of schedule, they played some great defenses in this playoff run. The Texans, the Chargers, and the Broncos. And now they have another defense, which is in the top 4. So that's just something to keep an eye on, in my opinion.
Yeah, and like you said, the turnover rate for both teams, whoever creates the turnover battle is going to win this game, obviously. And to me, Drake May is going to have to really figure out a way to protect the football early on. You don't want to get into those first half turnovers where Seattle's got the ball and they're taking control of the clock. You don't want that in the first half because the game can slip away, sooner rather than later. And to me, Sam Darnold has a little more cushion. If he does get an early turnover, I feel like his defense could get, that offense back on the field.
Absolutely.
And have them, get right back at it. But Drake May, I think his leash is a little bit shorter when it comes to the turnover battle. He's going to have to protect that football a little bit better than Donald will have to.
All right, excellent right there. Excellent. All right, let's bring up one of my key things to look into, obviously, heading into this game, is that both QBs are banged up. And obviously, we talked about it in our show previously about Sam Darnold saying he feels pretty good. Drake May, a lot of people don't know this, but his shoulder, he hasn't been feeling 100% with his shoulder. He said he'll tell the media that he has, but looking back at the injury he suffered in the AFC Championship in the Broncos game, his shoulder getting banged up, it looks like that he was obviously on the injury report a week ago. Now he's not on it. But it's something you guys got to keep in mind of, because if this is something where even in that Rams game, you saw Darnold wince with the oblique, how are you going to see Drake May responding? If it is his shoulder, his throwing shoulder, how are you going to see him responding if he does get banged up, get a tackle where, right back on the pain? That's just something I got to keep an eye on, especially if you are going to put a little bit of moolah on either of these quarterbacks right here. And Darnold as well. Like I said, he has favored that oblique before during the games against the Niners and the Rams. So if, an oblique, it doesn't just go away with a week or two, to be honest with you. It takes a little bit more time, especially when we're talking about throwing a football. That's just something I want a lot of people to keep their eyes on, because maybe people think, all right, both QBs are fully healthy. Both teams are fully healthy. And could be a lot of roster wide receivers, tight ends, D-backs, corners, whatever it may be, defensive ends. They are healthy. But the two quarterbacks, it just happens to be that they're the ones that currently are a little bit banged up. Just something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, like you said, Donald's had this injury for quite some time now. And that oblique, you can get hit the wrong way. You could actually turn the wrong way without even getting hit, non-contact, and it could just keep you out. So he's got to be careful. Obviously, he must have played like that in the NFC Championship game. He was obviously, quote-unquote, 100% healthy, but, it's still always there. It's always something that lingers, that oblique. It's just a terrible injury. It's just kind of nagging, and without rest and recuperation, it's really never going to heal properly. And for Drake May, if his shoulder is really a problem, I'm sure the Seahawks defense is going to try to exploit that by hitting him, as much as they possibly can. And I think that's why, if they have their backs do what they have to do in coverage, and they could utilize their defensive line to create the pressure and have their linebackers maybe blitz ever so often and put that pressure on Drake May, I don't know if New England's going to really want to have him run the football and make plays on his feet. I really do think they'd rather him, maybe 3 to 5 steps in the pocket, drop back and throw and get the ball released quickly, rather than have to scroll out and potentially have to run and he gets hit. So I think that you're going to see some spy coverages maybe from Seattle and a lot of blitzing from their backs, from their linebackers, and that front four. That defensive line's going to try to create some pressure.
I like that. That's a great point. More so talking about the Seahawks defense, and they can maybe use Drake May as a target right there to maybe, I'm not going to say purposely bang him up, but they have to do what they have to do to win this ball game right here. And whether you say spy coverages, I think that would be beautiful for the Seahawks defense. It's just something to keep an eye on for us fans, especially looking at both these quarterbacks, which happen to be the most, I guess, banged up. I mean, I guess you want to say Nick Emmanwari from the Seahawks defense as well, something to keep an eye on. But I do want to say that, especially Drake May's shoulder injury, because let's say he does get hit, you start favoring it. Oh boy, that's an issue right there. Now we're going to go into a topic during the game of how impactful is he going to be throwing the football and everything like that. Just keep an eye on that. Next that we have right here from JV himself. He said both defenses are elite at at limiting explosive plays. I think this is a really cool stat right here.
Yeah, so both teams actually they allowed minus 10% of their snaps with an explosive play. So basically, and these like we just went over, their offenses are in the top 4 and the top 8 of creating big time plays. So like we said, what defense is going to come up with the big stop, and what offense is going to be the one to maybe create those big plays downfield. I think that both teams going to have to try to get after their running game and open up the play action and make the passing plays work that way. But these defenses are really tuned in. And like I said, I think it's going to be a low-scoring first half. I think we'll see, obviously, a better played second half. I think the defenses are going to reign supreme in the first half and maybe create some havoc where they get after the quarterback. And like I said, I don't think Drake May is going to be a guy that wants to roll out and try to make plays on his feet. So I think that, they're going to try to hit him right in the mouth. And as for New England's defense, I think it's their defensive line as well, and they'll trust their corners, in coverage just as much as the corners are going to trust that front four. That front four can really get after it, that defensive line. So I think if they put a lot of pressure on Donald, and we just went over obviously both quarterbacks suffering some injuries, I think it's going to be really interesting to see what happens here. I'd like to see Drake May be a little aggressive and kind of put the doubters in check, because if he's too conservative, I think that Seattle's going to get too comfortable, and I don't think they want to get comfortable right now. New England can't let them get comfortable, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I really do like this stat. Like I said, it's a very fun stat because if you look at how the Patriots do with the play action play, sometimes receivers like Mac Hollins or Kayshon Boutte, those are very explosive plays. And if the Seahawks cornerbacks and Devon Witherspoon and Rick Woolen could limit that, I think that would be game-changing in this ball game right here, because I do believe the Seahawks defense, obviously, it's very highly touted. A lot of people said it's the best defense. Some people said it's the Texans. I personally think it's the Seahawks, and this is going to be the most difficult task, obviously, the Patriots are going to face when it comes to the defenses they've played so far, but it's just one game at a time, like I said before. They just have to make sure when they do try to do these risky plays, Drake May execute it as best as possible. And we've seen that he could do that, obviously, with some of the throws in the games against that Texans defense. I mean, just only balls that the receivers could catch. And I think it's such beautiful placement. I feel confident that Drake May could make those throws. We'll just see how the shoulder is. I will say that. But Sam Darnold, one thing I will say as well, like you said in the previous point, I think he'd be comfortable even if he does give up a turnover. His defense is going to be something that backs him and could get the ball back right away from them. And I think that's something very key.
Yeah. Listen, I personally think, like I said, if Sam gets into some trouble, he can rely on that defense to get Drake May off the field. But you also could get burned by Drake May. So they got to be careful. Sam doesn't want to get into this into a sloppy play early, especially. You got to want to kind of get into a groove offensively. Like I said, I think both teams are going to have to try to find their play action and try to work some plays that way. Maybe catch a safety over the top who bites, and you get somebody deep for 40 or 50 yards, and you try to open up the field that way. So I think there's going to be a lot of, both of these defenses are going to be very focused on their coverage and using their front four to me, creating pressure. You don't want to get burned over the middle of the field and give up big plays. So I think that both of these defenses are going to go with the game plans of what they've done, in the past, which has made them successful.
Absolutely. All right, now going into the last stat that I have right here. Both teams are top 10 in defensive success rate when it comes to pass plays. And why do I bring up specifically pass plays? Because I do believe, like me and JB have said, and we agreed in the prediction video, this is going to be a little bit more low scoring in the first half, leading into the second half, where we believe we're going to see the points start racking up for both teams. I think when it comes to whatever team does make the mistake through the air, which Sam Darnold does have the tendency of doing, yes, he hasn't done it in the postseason so far. We know that. But in the second half, he did have that issue where he was turning the ball over heavy. Look, his defense has bailed him out a lot. There's no doubt about that. But whichever team in the second half makes a mistake, whether it's turnover via the air, and I think that's where it's going to be, because I'll bring this stat up as well. Or not stat, I'll bring this point up as well. Whichever team is down, let's say third quarter going into the fourth, they're going to have to start making more risky plays, and risky
Right.
plays potentially lead to turnovers. So through the air, I think that's where either Drake May or Sam Darnold is going to have to be the most careful in. And the fact that both these teams rank in the top 10 in defensive success rate against pass plays, it's going to be good luck threading the needle, because if you don't, you're cooked. Simply put.
Yeah, this is a great stat that you had mentioned before we started recording, and it's a good one because, and I'll tell you why. From my end, this is why the run game is so important. If the run
Yes.
game can actually get going for both teams, it'll open up the pass game naturally. That's just how it works in the NFL and in football in general. Because now you're not a one trick pony. You could you do both things well, and only that happens when the run game does well. If your pass game is doing well, it's because it's the only thing that you're doing, and and your run game has squandered. Basically, that's not going to work. It's not going to work that way. So usually when both things are well balanced, it's because the run game is first, and that's just how I think about it. I think a team is only going to go as far as good as they run the football. So if for some reason we see turnovers from the run game, I think they're actually going to stop running the football, and that's where a team is going to get into some hot water. For example, if the Seahawks, if Kenneth Walker has 2 early fumbles or maybe even 1 early fumble, I can see both teams saying, you know what, forget that. We can't afford to put the ball on the ground anymore. Let's just stick to the air. Sam Darnold could actually throw 3 picks in the first half. They won't stop throwing. That's just how it works.
Yeah.
Both teams will shy away from the run game the minute somebody fumbles, but they won't shy away from the pass game. That's just how it is. Both quarterbacks wind up throwing over 40 times if that happens, and we'll probably see a lot sloppier football. So for the sake of a good football game, you'd want both offenses to have a good run game and a good pass game to open up everything. Yes. But like you said, both teams are going to stop the pass very well, and it's going to be, I think, who has the better run game that opens it up quicker.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect way to go about it right here. Obviously, those are 4 stats right there you need to know. Well, not stats, because technically my both QBs, just 4 points you need to know before the big game in a few hours by the time you guys are seeing this. JV, I'll throw it to you one last time before we wrap it up here. Obviously, Super Bowl 60, it's a huge matchup right here. 2 franchises that we quite don't know if they'll be here again, even if, in the next few years. This could be, especially with Drake May and how young that Patriots culture is right now, with Vrabel. Is there anything you have your eyes on specifically on this game when it comes to just the magnitude of it, let alone?
Yeah, I want to see how cool, calm, and collective Sam Darnold is. I want to see if the pressure of this moment is gonna come down on him and make it a little bit bigger for him than Drake May. I feel like there's so much pressure on Sam Darnold to win this game just because of the adversity that he's faced, and will he have, like you said, will he ever get there again? Is he really a franchise quarterback? I feel like Drake May is going to be there. I feel like he has such a long career ahead of him, and I feel like he could be as dominant in the AFC, just like Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, and Josh Allen. I feel like he could be in that mix for years to come. But obviously, Sam is still young. He's still young, but how many more times is he going to be able to represent the NFC, in the Super Bowl and have this moment? So I think that Sam is going to feel a lot more pressure just from the media and from the fans as well. And everyone is favoring, most of the people are favoring Seattle to win. So just him thinking that and seeing that, I'm sure he hears that around town, and that they're favored to win. That's got to be put, obviously more added pressure because now everyone's expecting him to win. So I do want to see how he, responds to this pressure and the moment. And I want to see how he does if he does make a bad play, if he does, throw an interception, how he's going to come out on that next drive and, try to put his team in the best position to win. So I want, all my eyes are on Sam Darnold for this game.
I think my point, one thing that I'm 100% looking at is just the coaching matchup right here between McDonald and Vrabel. Which team, or which coach should I say, with the experience that they have, obviously, technically, it's their first go-around for both teams in the playoffs. I do believe, to me, which team in crunch time, which coach should I say in crunch time, will be the one that's flawless, which will be the one that makes the least amount of mistakes and that goes for it. If it's a 4th and 2, all on the line. If it's a 1-point game, 2-point game, which coach makes the right calls? And that is something that's going to have my eyes directly on the TV, seeing how they go about their play calling, especially in crunch time when there's 5 minutes, 6 minutes left. If it's a close game, that's one thing I have my eyes on when it comes to this game right here.
That's a good point. And you know, obviously, time management and clock management is a huge part of offensive success. And you have to know how many timeouts you have as well, when to utilize those timeouts. So I want to see, you know, how both of these coaches perform in their first Super Bowls as head coaches. So I know obviously Vrabel's been there as a player, but obviously when you're on the sideline calling the shots, it's a lot different. And yeah, I think, you know, time management and clock management is going to be a huge aspect in this game, and who utilizes that the best is going to put themselves in a good position to win.
Absolutely. I agree with you right there. Obviously, we want to hear your guys' predictions. If you guys didn't give it to us in the last video, give us your predictions right here in the comment section before game time. Who y'all got, the Patriots or Seahawks? And let us know the score prediction as well. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button here on YouTube. Make sure you guys follow us on TikTok and IG at JBM Sports Media. Till the next one, we'll catch you guys later. Peace.